G'day legends, welcome back to Roadside presented by Zwift. We're back again for our fortnightly show. We've got a big one to unpack. We've got Tirreno and Paris-Nice. We're going to be going through, of course, the results of the 8 and 7 day stage race. Is Vingegaard going to get back to his best? I have concerns, and should the world's best cyclists all be racing the best races at the same time? Do we have a problem there, Tommy? We've got a lot going on in this episode.
Yeah, it's getting real meaty, isn't it? Hey, the content, it's just getting a little bit juicier. We're well and truly into the European season and the classics. We've had opening weekend, and the first monument is on the horizon.
That's right. Milan-San Remo coming up this Saturday night. The women's for the first time as well on Sunday. We're going to have our preview this week on the Thursday. But before we get into a meat of our episode, Tommy, what has been happening in your world, mate, the last 10 days?
Oh, mate, usual sort of jazz, not going to lie. I helped a friend out with the Port to Pub.
What's that?
Over the weekend. So all the people who obviously don't live in Perth, we've got an island 20 kilometres off the coast. And people... There's a few things that Perthonian people love, and it's cheap fuel on a Tuesday, going to the beach when it's absolutely chockers, and swimming in fucking Rottnest.
It's full of flies over there, Rottnest.
Yeah, full of quackers. So anyway, a good friend of mine and her mates, they put together a team, and they swam across. It was rough as guts, plenty of swell, plenty of breeze, and I'm on the pad. You got to paddle next to them with your boat
for safety.
Yeah, and to let them know where they're going. So me and my mate Mitch, we're doing hard slog in the yak. Other than that, mate, I'm also 2 from 2 for burger rides this week.
Yes, we had one last week, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
That was good.
So I've been clocking up those. Went out with the Eastern Express boys, who were giving me a bit of stick as well about keeping receipts on this podcast. They were telling me there's so many receipts that each of us need to cash in on these bets. We just let our loose lips, and
we need people to tell us.
We
need people to tell us.
So, but also shout out to the Eastern Express boys.
The club that only the people who are in it know about.
Yeah, precisely. And they showed me that they do their best work off the bike anyway.
Yeah, good logos too. I like the logos. So shout out to them. Well done, Port to Pub, on you doing the paddle part, not swimming.
Yes. And I showed them I did my best work when we got to the island. But yourself, mate, you've recovered from 3 peaks. What an adventure.
I was highlighting on the run sheet as I hurry up, Tommy. Get to the part where I say how good I was at 3 peaks. Mate, 3 peaks. Unbelievable. Of course, the world's hardest Grand Fondo you can do. World's hardest organised event in the top 10 in the world, apparently.
Top 10, yeah, right.
Amazing event. Amazing event. And I had such a good time. I really had such a good time. And I reckon I went about 90 minutes faster. For all the bullshit talk we were talking on the pod, I honestly thought I would start in the 10-hour group and I would end up in the 12-hour group. But I stayed with.
Yeah, because I thought I had you in the 12-hour group.
You did. I honestly thought I would, but it was fine. It was actually good. And you know what was really funny? Apart from a few wobbles here and there, was on the about 220 Ks into the ride, so the final climb up the back of Falls Creek. I was riding up the climb. I got past the worst of it, which everybody will know who's done that ride. And then I was sort of just pedaling on my own, chopping off 500 watts. And I just smell shit all of a sudden. And I'm like, poor. And then I look ahead and I see a bike just leaning up against a tree. And I was like, oh no. And I look a bit into the bush. And there is a poor soul, a grown man, stark naked. There's bibs around his ankles. He's sitting down on a felled log with his ass hanging over it, just launching into the bush. Fully shitting. He's just got his head... his head in his hands, just this sweaty unit shitting in the bush on a tree, and I just felt for him because he only had 15 k's to go. He was past the worst of it, but he obviously had another mountain to climb, and it stunk, and it was still like 12% gradient, so and I was fucking bunted, so I couldn't even accelerate and get away. So there were some battlers out there, and saw people throwing up, people crying. I saw the lot, mate. So it was a good day out.
Oh, that's brilliant. The best and the worst of 3 peaks.
And lots of listeners, Tommy, were out there on the ride, and they would come up to me and they'd be like, you're still here. You're still here.
No way.
Tommy owes you breakfast. They were calling them, speaking of receipts, they were keeping the receipts on my breakfast. So I will be calling Tommy up on that, and we'll be going to the Wildflower in Perth, I think, Tommy.
Oh, the Wildflower. I'll take out a mortgage and we'll see you there, mate. I'll make the booking. I'll let you know.
That sounds good. And my Pirelli tyres were magnificent, and the Magine Ultra Dark wheels. I'd ridden for 50 Ks, and then I've now done 270 on them.
What'd you average? What power on through the Magine? What'd you put through?
Normalised power 180.
So you didn't put you didn't stress the sensors too hard.
I did a couple of sprints. I did a couple of sprints out of the corners.
Good stuff, chapeau. Hey, you didn't do a lot of training for it, but you went over there. You backed yourself. You got
13 hours of training for the year before I did that.
So
very good, and I'll definitely be back next year if it lines up. So maybe they Matilda, you want to get me on there as a special ambassador? I'd love to. Now, don't forget to follow us on YouTube as well. This is all on YouTube in 4K. We change the locations of where we do it, but it's always up every fortnight, and our preview. So follow us there. Leave us a comment. If you did 3 peaks, let us know what you thought. Socials as well, at the Press Room Podcast on Insta, and all the rest of it on the podcast players as well. Before we dive in, Zwift have the Big Spin on at the moment. That's the new series at the moment with lots of events and special rides and unlocks. I want to know if anyone has unlocked that BMX bike yet that we talked about last episode. It's a very, very rare unlock. I want it. Megan's in the other room right now, Zwifting.
Yeah, she's just come home from work. She's gone, she's ridden enough until sunset, and then she's gone, I'm getting on the Zwift. I'm getting it done. She is.
Easy. When it's too much traffic outside, you can just go inside and hop on Zwift, and that's the beauty of it. Okay, this is Roadside, presented by Zwift. So the Roadside FE Sports news, Tommy, kicking off, we've got the UCI, just 2 days ago actually, reported, or David Lepantiant confirmed in an interview that he has received a request from the CPA and another organisation, I can't remember what it was called, a lot of letters, but basically it represents all of the Professional Cyclists Union. They've received a request to allow an extra wildcard for this year's Tour de France men's event. And that is because we've got Total Direct Energies, Uno X and Tudor. They're all fighting for those last 2 wildcard spots. And there is talk there. They've received, David Lepantiant said, we are reviewing this. And he didn't poo-poo it straight away. And for me, Tommy, that seems like something you'd either say it's either not happening or it is.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation at the moment, because for so many years, to put things in context, all the wildcard teams are the second tier teams from Italy. They'd get an invite to the Giro.
Yeah.
Same for the French, same for the Spanish. And now I dare say you get teams like Alpecin-Deceuninck. They've arrived on the scene. They were once a pro-continental team. Mm-hmm. They were so dominant. They got invites to the biggest Grand Tours, and they set up that series for the Pro Series. If you were the first pro-continental team, you got an invite to all the World Tour races. So since they've sort of set that in motion a couple of years ago, the wildcard scenario for particularly the Tour has become a lot more merit-based.
Yes.
No longer are the French teams just purely getting an invite because they know their mates there.
Yep.
So this is a really interesting development, and this is something that could provide a lot of stability for teams, because getting a spot on the Tour de France start line, the Grand Depart, is literally what sponsors are paying for.
It's life or death for a team, and it's very interesting because we'll talk about Total Direct Energies a little bit later on in this news segment and their sort of troubles. But Uno X have been doing everything possible and everything right to get their spot in the Tour de France. And Tudor, I mean, they've got Alaphilippe. That is enough really for any team to get to the Tour de France, let alone their results. What's that?
Do you like it? Getting another spot?
I think it's, if they say yes, they do it, it's double standards, because it was only a couple of years ago the UCI were trying to reduce teams and number sizes in the Tour de France. This adding a whole nother team, it goes against that.
It does.
But I do want to see Tudor in it. So if that means Tudor Pro Cycling can get in the Tour de France, open up the slather, mate. Open it up.
You're quick to close an eye.
Keep to close an eye. Now, Alpecin-Deceuninck are in the news last week because Deceuninck are going to leave as the co-title sponsor in 2026. So this will be the last year that Alpecin-Deceuninck will be the team name. Alpecin will remain, of course, the caffeine shampoo. But it doesn't exactly look good when one of the best classics teams with probably the most marketable rider ever loses a sponsor.
It happens in this sport because there's not a functioning business model. Happened with Team Sky. They jumped off. They went right with... Conquered the heights of Everest with Chris Froome, Bradley Wiggins. We set out to win the Tour de France, and that set Dave Brailsford down the path of securing Ineos. So, good teams, and I feel like to Koenig as well, this outfit, they are set up pretty well behind the scenes. And I feel that they will be able to find another sponsor. I just feel comfortable.
Plenty of time to do so as well. They're not getting left in the lurch in December, so at least that's goodbye to Koenig, saying, we'll give you a year, of course. It
does put the highlight, though, on that team to have a good classics. For Van der Poel to really step up, have a few more wins. He won Roubaix Flanders last year, didn't get any better than that. He kind of almost needs to do that again to realistically, aid the corporate side of that team to go out and get sponsors.
And that's also why Mathieu Van der Poel, despite his resistance, is being forced to go to the Tour de France for that team. It's the reason it sells the sponsor. So see how they go. In sponsor talks as well, Total Energies are in talks to, or Total, sorry, the sponsor of Total Direct Energy.
The company.
Total are in talks to join Ineos as a co-sponsor, and they would leave the current Total Direct Energy team in limbo. So that, if that comes ahead, which, where there's smoke, there's fire, and this was reported by Ciro Scolamilio from the Gazzetta dello Sport, who is probably the most reliable source you can get in cycling journalism. That would be very interesting because Ineos is your traditional, really they've gone back to their UK roots, and Total is a big French powerhouse. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, it will. It really will. And look, it prompts a lot of destability throughout those two teams. Well, not particularly for Ineos. I think everybody there, they go, we're going to rumble along as usual.
Yeah.
But geez, if you're riding for Total at the moment, you're in strife. You really are looking for performances. You're looking for results, and you're having those conversations earlier and earlier.
Do they still have Tergis?
Yep.
Oh, he'll be one of the riders who'll certainly be absolutely fine when it comes to their contract. Don't know about the fake Alaphilippe as well. What's his name? Bernardal?
I'll leave that one.
Yeah, well, the fake Alaphilippe. Just Google that. You'll see the rider. He's
is also rumoured to be in trouble.
Yes, they are. So that's two French teams in big strife. And you think about Total leaving Total Direct Energies. What does that mean for their Tour de France bid? They're one of the three teams, as we just mentioned earlier, looking for that wildcard spot. So, geez.
Not to mention that this is a relegation year as well. So all those World Tour cards are up on offer. So Arkea and... they're one of those teams that are well and truly in the fight for the remaining World Tour spots.
They are fighting for last at the moment. They're definitely towards the bottom. Now, Hess Cycling is a pro tour team, so second run women's in the Women's World Tour. They're the next rung down. Australians will remember that former Australian champion Nicole Frayne was on their team for a couple of years, and now Maeve Plouffe signed with them late last year. She's still riding the track at the moment with the Australian team. I think they got bronze in the team's pursuit. But they have been refused their UCI registration in March. It was only just 2 weeks ago this was announced, or 1 week, after reports of non-payments to riders and staff. And that looks doomed. Luckily, I think that they've got to have a pool of money in a sort of a holding account that allows the UCI to draw upon that and pay the riders and staff. But then that basically wraps up the team. That looks... like it's going to wrap up, which is a shame because I think they've got about 14 riders who are good.
You reckon it's done?
On their list.
Team's done.
I think it's done. And Nicole Frayne mentioned at Rattle Gravel earlier this year at Tour Down Under that her experience with Hess Cycling, because she's not with them now, she's riding for Ridley Gravel, a Ridley classified gravel team. Her experience with them was shit. It would come halfway through the season and she wouldn't even get a TT bike to train on, and then they'd have to go to the Tour de France and ride a TT. And she moves to this Ridley Pro Gravel team, and she's got 3 training bikes in January ready to go. So
things are hard in the continental landscape. We're talking about World Tour teams that have big budgets, and we talk about the disparities between those teams. Just amplify it by 3 or 5, and that's what you're looking at the continental landscape. They are just up against it constantly.
Yeah, it's really, really
difficult.
tough.
I hope a lot of those riders find homes.
In the Women's Vuelta, that has been announced, the whole course. Basically, you've got 2 okay mountain stages. Nothing crazy, Tommy. There's one stage in here which I thought was a bit silly. I don't know what you think, mate, but there is a stage that is 8 kilometres long, and it's a team's time trial. So it's basically a team's time trial prologue.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
That's too short. That's so long. They've got to hook all these time trial bikes over to Spain and throughout the whole race for 8 kilometres.
It's the Vuelta.
It's got to be 20 kilometres minimum.
No,
For a team's time trial.
Time gaps would be too big. I love it. The TTT is a display that we all love to see.
I love it too.
No, I love it.
I'll
take
TTT.
whatever I can get for it.
I'm knocking the 8Ks. The time you get down the start ramp, you're over.
I don't know. I reckon. I think it's a good number. We don't know the parkour. I haven't seen the parkour at least. Anyway, it could be challenging. It could be a little burr.
It's flat.
No, I think it's the right amount. I think you could. I think 8 to 10K because you don't for the opening stage. If it is,
it's a team's time trial.
I think it will be entertaining. I think it'll be good.
8 kilometres.
You're saying races decided by 10 or 15 seconds here or there. That's what you could see that could emerge in a TT like this.
Riders might only hit the front once. They must do one rotation and they're over.
If they are, then their DSs aren't doing a very good job. I can guarantee you that.
8 kilos? That's ridiculous. Surely longer than 8 kilometres. That's not... I like the TTT, but 8Ks, you can't say that's the right amount of distance. It's the perfect distance.
It's probably not perfect, but I'll take it.
All right.
I'll take it.
We'll definitely take an extra stage, but geez, it seems like a cop-out. Speaking of cop-out, last year's World Championships in Zurich that saw Kopecky and Pogacar become the World Championships reported today, actually I read this, that they had a €4.6 million net loss for the event, which the organisers are working with debt people to restructure all of that. Bike races often lose money, but the World Championships and one-day races are usually the ones that actually make money. We've seen that happen at in Leuven for the Flanders event. That made a lot of money. I think €23 million. The Wollongong World Championships, that made money and also generated around 35 million for that economy. Doesn't look amazing for Rwanda coming up this year. What would the debt be for that event? Zurich, one of the richest places in the world.
Yeah, but we complain about the road closure fee for races here in Australia. The staff, mate, is generally the cost. What do you reckon you're paying someone in Zurich to stand on the end of a lollipop? Hey,
that's true.
It'd be $100 an hour, and then you got double bubble on a Saturday. It'd be even more. Well, Rwanda staff wages might be a little bit different, I dare say.
It won't be road closures because there's no actual roads. It's just dirt. It's just wet dirt, like we saw at Tour Rwanda. Once it rains, it turned into sludge. So, and road closures, I don't know, they're not stopping dogs on the course. So, it's going to be interesting, but just another example of how hard cycling is for everyone, when a World Championships loses money.
I'm starting to lean towards Rwanda being run.
We haven't heard much, have we?
We haven't. It's been silent on that front. So I'm starting to think that it's either really good or it's really bad. There's going to be no in between in this pendulum.
Well, maybe the Swiss town that was looking at hosting as the second runner-up for this year.
Well, you'd be putting your hand down if you're that town after seeing this audit, this come through. Unless, obviously, we see this deficit in the budget of the spend, but we don't. I don't know. I haven't seen the economic impact that you can see around.
We wait to see that.
So when you do spend on these events, it's often not the cost for the event, rather the.
I was unfair there. I did say the economic benefit of Leuven and of Wollongong, so I didn't let this one come out. So we'll wait and see what that is. It's been a year now. We should be able to see that. Paris-Nice was won by Jorgensen. Matteo, of course, Jumbo Visma. We'll be talking about that after the next break. Ayuso stomped his authority at Tirreno-Adriatico, best trophy in the World Tour. Now, the original Milano-San Remo equivalent for the Women's World Tour, Trofeo Alfaro Binda, was won by Balsamo, who's won it twice now, I believe, but my early riser pick at the start of the year for those receipt keepers, along with Almeida, along with Magnier, Kat Ferguson, at 18 years old, riding for Movistar, finished in third place. And Tom, let me just show you a screen grab I took of the top 10. That's actually a photo of me.
Photo of you on the graph. Look at that big head of
Have
yours.
a look at this for a top 10, mate. Balsamo knocks out the Hungarian national champ Blanka Vas. Then you have Ferguson, 18 years old. Voss, Paternoster, Liv Sprinter, Naomi Rugg, Puck Peterser, Kim Lecourt, Longo Borghini, and 11th was Vollering.
That's quality. That's quality.
Incredible. And the longest race on the calendar, that race. And that's a huge result. So look out for Kat Ferguson. Make sure you follow her on Instagram. She does love the pod, by the way. And we're keen to see how she goes because she's riding Roubaix as well this year. So that's going to be epic.
What sort of rider is she?
18 years old, mate. We're still not sure.
Do it all,
but
hey?
obviously she could do it all, which
Okay.
is very impressive. So Movistar, they're going to do. They're going to have to work hard to keep her on the books.
Yeah, they don't have a good track record, at least the male side of the Movistar unit of keeping talent. Speaking of like riders like Jorgensen, who did pull the pin, and your man, the big unit, Johnny Milan, who's had a bit of success down at Tirreno. You've put this down here. He's got a younger brother, and he's got a huge sprint.
My other pick.
You want to develop on that?
I do. I just want to just back over my own, reheat myself if I can, with Jonathan Milan being the best sprinter in the world, announcing himself this year, and he has done that. I think that's clear, Tommy. But he's got a younger brother, 22 years old, Matteo Milan, who's racing for the Lidl Trek development team, the same one that Thibaut Nice progressed through. He's won a big race in the Czech Republic, and you should have seen the roar across the line as he got there. So very keen to see this sprinter progress, and I assume he's a sprinter because he won a bunch of sprint, and he's a unit. So let's see how he goes, the younger brother. And what about this? Today of recording, Tommy, Monday, and it won't be the last, my man, and our man, but my man, Brady Gilmore, the boy from Kalgoorlie, or the king of Kalgoorlie, his third win for the year at, where is the race?
Where's the race, mate?
Pull it up. Go to
Here we go. He's scrambling
it's got a
here.
weird flag, but this is, of course, a race which has a lot of development riders in there. This is the Tour de Taiwan. So he's over there. The great state. Mate, I got the result earlier than you.
Oh,
My man, Jordi Lopez, he got smoked. It should have been a 1 second gap. It should be a 1 second gap. But this is great. The first two stages are won by Australians because Blake Quick got himself on the books yesterday in a bunch kick with the lead out from some of the great riders like Richards and those real journeymen on the Australian scene. But Gilmore, I'm telling you, I looked after Blake Quick's win. I had a look at the stage profiles. I didn't actually pick the second stage for Brady to win because it's probably the hardest stage. But I picked the second last stage that I thought Brady might get up, which is, as you can see there, a bit of a punchy stage with a little hill at the end. So look out for Brady Gilmore at the Tour de Taiwan. And I really think it's time he needs to be promoted to the top team.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You can't argue when a rider just keeps banking UCI points. And look, there's not that many on offer when you go to these 2.2s or, these Conti-level stage races. So you got to make them count. And he's doing just that. So I'm stoked to see him get another win. What can he do? When racing gets to Europe, I'm really excited to see what he can do. Yep. And I really hope he gets an opportunity at the bigger races.
Well, Israel, they've got to they've got to do it because someone else will go, hang on a second, we need to get this kid.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the conversations if he's having some with other riders, other teams rather, who, the UCI points are just so valuable.
Absolutely. So that was the FE Sports Roadside News. Of course, FE Sports, one of our great sponsors for this year, second year on, or a little bit longer than that now. We've got our longest deal with them this year. One of their products, Tommy, is the Shocks products. They are the bone-conducting headphones, and they're an amazing set because they've got one specific for running. They've got swimming, that work underwater.
You need them swimming when you're looking at that black line back and forth, mate.
You need to have us on in there and you're just cutting laps for the Port to Pub. And one of the products I had a look at the other day was the Shocks Open Run Pro 2. And I was with my friend Sarah yesterday. She had them on while she was going for a walk, and she said to me she loves these Shocks Open Run Pros because you just feel a bit more safer because you can hear everything around you. That's one of the benefits of the bone conducting headphones. And not only are they, sleek, lightweight, but also this is what I learned today, they're wind resistant for up to 25 kilometre an hour wind. That's actually so good because that is a thing when you're riding. If it's super windy or you're out running or walking, that wind buffering really means you've got to turn the volume up when you're listening to Roadside. So that's a great feature, 25 kilometre hour wind. So I really like that.
Yeah, no, you absolutely do need them. They're a great set. They work well. They hook on your ears as well. Right. So that when you ride, they sit nice and snug. So that's always been my concern of getting, say, like a Bluetooth device to listen to when you're riding, is that you just won't see it. You hit a bump and out it goes. But these are pretty stable. I'm a fan of them. I've seen them. They've been around for years as well.
And they're
bloody reliable.
That's
one
thing I've liked about. You're right. They have been around for years. They've refined their product and they keep refining, keep adding features. So I've got a big trail run, 40 kilometres, Transcend in August that I've been training for about 15 months now. And I think I might get this new set to replace my old set and see how they go, and then I can let everybody know how they went on the day for the 6 hour.
Yeah,
So
I like that.
I'm in.
Yeah, get a hold of us, set. Get on all. Well, mate, finally we're into the racing. There's been heaps happening the last couple of weeks. We had Strada, and we just touched on it slightly with the 2-week-long stage races. Paris-Nice, that was on. It's effectively known as the race to the sun. Stayed true to its brand at the 83rd edition. It was dismal. The conditions were absolutely dismal. Rained for the entirety of it, except for the last stage, the 8th stage into Nice. On stage 2, half the stage was neutralised because there was race and there was snow and sleet on the road. So then they restarted it for this final climb. So the commissaires, the race officials, they had their hands full. Put all that aside, Matteo Jorgensen went back-to-back, the American for Visma Lease Bike. They had a great race. He took out the GC overall by 1 minute and 15 seconds over Red Bull Borhansgrohe, Florian Lipovitz. Then it was Tien Arensman from Ineos, followed by Magnus Sheffield in 4th. The robot, the man from WA, Michael Storer, he gets the job done from Chiropores Cycling. He won a stage.
Yep.
And he finished 4th. Then it was your man again, Yao Almeida. You've got a few blokes on your books, don't you? And then it was my guy, Clement Champousson from XDS Astana, followed by his teammate, Harold Tadej. That's the top 8. That's anyone worth note. It was around 4 minutes. Mate, it was thrilling bike racing. You tuned in for a little bit. But across the week, we saw a pretty well-balanced race. We saw Tim Malia. He mopped up the sprints early on for Quick Step. He got the boys in the game. From there on in, it was just dismal conditions, challenging for the GC men, and we saw a really good battle in the final stages.
We certainly did, and I think the weather and just the conditions was the main talking point. And you see people winning these stages. I was watching videos of Almeida after the stage, and he was shivering. And
Michael Storer was the same.
Yeah, he could not get his gloves off, and it literally looked like his body was going into shock. And you're just sitting there going, this is the reason why these professionals are professionals, because they have to turn up, and if it's like this, well, they've got a race in it, and that is absolutely cooked. They are the riders who are winning. What about the 150 who are out the arse? They are the ones, the battlers. So
I can relate to that.
I can't. So Lidl, by the way, I think Mads Pedersen, after they lost Skolmos, who crashed out with a number of riders who did crash in the bad conditions, but Pedersen showed that he's in some serious form, which we'll talk about now. Milano Sanremo preview. They lost their climber. He had the sprint jersey, and he had to work his ass off on that final stage, get over 3 huge mountains in the breakaway to contest the final intermediate sprint to net him the points to secure the jersey, and he did so. And that's just what Mads does. He is such a, if there is a result that he can go for, that's there, even if it looks out of reach, he still gives it a go. We've seen it time after time, and that is someone who, apart from his ability to win so many different races, that's who you want on the team.
Yeah, you want someone like that. And obviously, Skelmoser, he's another Dane. They're good mates. They room together. So he wasn't just some bloke rolling in going, bugger this, crap weather. He was all in for Skelmoser.
Yeah, doing it for his friend, yeah.
On one of the earlier stages when it was crosswinds and big group got up the road containing Jorgensen, Skelmoser, they were all there. But Pedersen, he was this bloke who was just driving it. He was just an absolute animal. Campanarts was in there, so was Zingel for Visma Lease Bike. These big engines just moved this group, and that was really what, secured Jorgensen the result on that stage where it was crosswinds. And Visma, they showed how good they were. My thoughts as well, just in team selection. They came with a really big team of Eduardo Affini, Zingel for a sprint, but realistically, he was there to work, as well as Campanarts. They also had, obviously, Jonas Vingegaard. And he had a crash. And he hurt his hand. We don't know if it was broken, but he left the race early, didn't he?
He did left the race early. It was confirmed that it was not broken. He was also concussed. And Victor Campanarts, on the stage he was crashed and concussed, I think it was 4 or 5. Victor Campanarts was quoted saying that Vingegaard came up to him during the race, because he did finish the stage, and said to him that he's feeling dizzy, and Victor said that he didn't seem like he was fully lucid, and that just gives you alarm bells with regards to concussion, and with someone who's already had a major crash already, that he got back on his bike, he wasn't fully there, according to one of his teammates, and he still finished the stage, which had descents and everything. So it looked, concerning, and not a great start for Vingegaard. He also got overtaken. It actually looked bad. He did attack on, I think, stage 2. If you just go back to the stages here, I think actually it was stage 4. He attacked. He only just got separation. And then the video is amazing. Almeida attacked from the group 2 and overtook Vingegaard and then put about 5 lengths into him over the top. So this gets to my point here that I've been thinking about for a while.
You've been brewing on this for a while.
About Jonas Vingegaard. And it all started, really, with his crash last year in April. Remember the crash was a horrible crash. It took down Jay Vine as well.
The Tour of Basque.
The Tour of Basque Country. It was one that nearly took his life. Vingegaard thought he was going to die, and we were worried about lots of riders in that moment. And we're so glad that they were able to recover and come back. So this is the reason why I'm worried for Vingegaard, because I feel like he may have lost the edge. I think he may have lost the edge, and he might be thinking about hanging up the wheels. That's what I'm concerned with, right? You have a big crash. The big motivation for coming back is, one, you love cycling. That's what you do. You want to come back. You want to get back to what you do. It's your identity. The second one is you want to get back to winning, right? You want to get back to winning. And would you agree to me that with respect to Jonas Vingegaard, when he comes back to his top level, his only way he can succeed is to win. Like, everything else doesn't count. A second doesn't count. Third doesn't count. He has to win. He's won the Tour de France twice. Would you agree with that?
I think he's become a little bit more selective with what he does care about, and I think part in that, as well as also the team's refining its goals and its position a little bit more with Visma.
With Jumbo-Visma,
they only care about
Jonas
the Tour with
Vingegaard.
Jonas.
Yeah, they want him to win the Tour. That's what he's there
absolutely.
for.
Yeah, that's what he's paid money for.
So when he's thinking about, okay, I've got to get in recovery, I've got to get back to my top shape, I've got to take risks here, I've got to have altitude camps here, I've got to be away from my family for 6 to 8 months of the year, I have to do this to get back to win the Tour. If Jonas gets back to his top level, it won't be enough to beat the Pogacar of 2025. That is my key point here. And when you're trying to come back to the top level and you've got to train, you've got to do the altitude, you've got to do these shitty races in Paris-Nice, in the wet, in the sleet, risking your life, which he said he doesn't want to do, and then only to think you get back to your top level, but Pogacar's moved up 3. So all of that stuff is now no longer worth it because you're finishing second in the Tour, but you've won it twice. It's a fail.
Wow, I think you are so off the mark. Mate, that's an absolute essay that you've just prepared. You've had a busy smoko today, haven't you? You've been on the tools.
I've been thinking about this for a long time. And, even in a warm-up race, Paris-Nice, he would usually walk away at 80% with the mountaintop finishes. He's getting piped by Almeida and other riders still in the same group as him. He's clearly not at the level he was this time last year, or the year before that. And it's all happened after this crash, which I think has really mentally affected his motivation to compete at the top level.
Well, obviously, it's undoubtedly, you'd go through a process after having a crash like that where you would question, your values and what's important to you.
Yeah.
I think he's gotten over that. He's made a compromise by the sounds of it with his wife and his family and what's important. To answer and counter what you think is, if he still has that hunger or that sort of mongrel in him to be able to fight for the win, I think he still has that. You wouldn't come back to the sport if you didn't have that belief that you want to win. And all these races, Paris-Nice is a World Tour race. It is also for, maybe Jonas, Tadej, maybe even Remco you could throw in this bracket. They're races where they've got to manage the risk. They've got to manage the expectation.
Yes.
Because there is the expectation that they're the big name, they should go win. That's not always the case. The guys who are just nipping at the heels for so many years, they've gotten better. Almeida's gotten better. These guys have grown and they have sort of eaten into the gap potentially for these races, but not the big races. Okay. Mate, I tell you what, you put Jonas Vingegaard, you send him out to the mountain and down at Tenerife on the volcano, you give him a month down there. He is a man. He's like Simon Gerrans, Australian champion. You put a goal on his calendar. He doesn't care what is on either side of the goal. He will attack that goal. He will go to the Tour de France. And I think, depending on how he pulls up from this concussion and this injury, and I think if he has a clean run to the Tour, I think it will be one of the most enthralling battles of all time between him and Tadej. Hopefully they arrive fit.
Yes, they must.
But I think they are more than even at the Tour.
Wow.
I think, yes, Tadej does all this wonderful hoorah at all these other races. Will he do Roubaix? Wonderful. He can go win everything, yes. But Jonas is a Grand Tour rider. Jonas is not a stage racer in terms of week-long races. He is a Grand Tour rider through and through, and I think he will win the Tour.
Oh. Okay, all right. Well, I hope they are both there in top shape.
Why can't you think that he's done? You think he's washed?
Washed is not the word. I think if he had that motivation, he could get back to the top level and compete. I think the motivation is compromised, both from his factors of wanting to be there for his family, Pogacar going to another level, and already having the money and all success already. So what's the motivation to continue? That's
to win the Tour of France again.
Yes. Well, let's see how he goes. We got Tirreno-Adriatico.
A few receipts out of that conversation.
There was a few receipts, and make sure you do keep them before we go over to Tirreno, because we want to know what you think. Am I wrong? Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you think when they get to the Tour, let's say they get there fresh, Pog versus Vingegaard, is Vingegaard going to be on the level? That is the question that will be
Vingegaard's going to be the level.
Because he obviously wasn't last year, but he was fresh from that crash in April. But Tirreno-Adriatico right after this.
Well, it was bleak at Tirreno-Adriatico as it was at Paris-Nice. Despite the snow, there was still rain and there was lots of it. The 60th edition over there, the race that you think has the best trophy, the big trident they give to the riders at the end. It is a good-looking trophy, I'll grant you that.
Yeah.
And it ended up in the hands of Juan Ayuso from UAE Team Emirates. He just keeps his crosstown rivals in check at Visma Lease Bike, who, yes, they won Paris-Nice. So they're going sort of tick for tat at the moment. Maybe UAE have the edge over the other super team at the moment. But the Spaniard, Ayuso, he continues his great season. His third win from 4 starts. His second World Tour stage race of his career. He won Basque Country last year, mate. So... The young Spaniard, he is well and truly leading the race that we spoke about last pod, the internal fight at UAE.
Yeah, and the comments that he made at the start of the year, he came off really bullish, saying that he wants to be number one on the Tour team. He wants to beat Pogacar. That's his motivations, and I'm sure there was lost in translation there with regards to how he would set it the context. But a lot perceive that as arrogance, and it's a little bit of a rumor going around that Pogacar and Ayuso are not friends. So there's friction there. But at the end of the day, as a young rider who wants to be a general classification Tour de France contender, all you can do is let the legs do the talking, and my word, is Juan Ayuso doing that just. And he put on a clinic, you would say a flawless performance, really, throughout the whole race, including 3 stage wins in the end throughout the race. So pretty decent from him.
Yeah, no, he's looking really good. He's looking like another rider who can just get it done like that other sort of Pog sort of format, Yep. Impressive, really impressive. But I was also impressed by Ineos. They did really well over at Paris-Nice. They rode as a unit, and they did the exact same thing over at Tirreno-Adriatico. Ghana took the jersey early with the opening time trial.
Yes.
He looks really good. We're speaking of Mads Pedersen, his climbing ability for a big classics rider. Mate, Ghana, he's doing the exact same thing. He was only dislodged by Ayuso on one of the last mountaintop finishes of the race, where Ghana, he finished 13th. He was right there alongside Pelé Bilbao.
On a proper mountain stage.
Yeah, a proper grippy mountain.
Second overall in Tirreno-Adriatico, 35 seconds back. He's ahead of Tiberi the Cat Killer, Derek G, Hindley, Pidcock, Landa, La Cruz, Bilbao. All these climbers, the big units there. Simon Yates, Ciccone, good Lord. Adam Yates as well.
Yeah, mate, he's absolutely moving, and he has come out on record. He's gone, I want to go over to Milan-San Remo this week. I want to win. That's one of his big goals, and to go to the Classic. So he's clearly built up a bit more of an all-round engine, but he's still motoring.
Yeah.
Mate, your man, Lidl Trek.
Yeah, Milan did very good.
Oh, he looks good. He had a little praying as well on a stage, and he sort of missed out on an opportunity. That was where Oliver Coy won a stage in the bike. But he just looks, him and his mob, his lead out, the boys, the Italian TP, they're dialed in, aren't they?
They're dialed. He won the 2nd and the 7th stage. Consoni and Milan are just absolute chalk and, they're just chalk and chalk, really. They're working really well together. And even when Mads is in that team as well, they'll work even stronger.
Will they?
Well, I think they will. Mads has always been a good teammate. He was in the same group when I think Stuyven clicked away at Milano-San Remo in Roubaix. He's also been a good 1-2 lead out with Scoins and the like. So Mads knows how to be a team player. He might just not like it for very much longer out of contract this year, by the way. Yes. But Milan doing what he needs to do to confirm himself as the best sprinter in the world is just keep winning. Van der Poel was there as well, and it was kind of interesting because you kind of forgot he was there because he was not on the winners list. He had a couple of seconds and thirds, but it is clear to say it's not necessarily his terrain on these stages.
Oh, there's a punchy stages. There was days there that he definitely could have won, and I think there was an expectation that he should have won. And him not getting a win there, that wasn't Koenig. They haven't won a World Tour stage race this year.
Oh, geez. So there hasn't been many.
We've had enough, I think.
Okay, all right.
We've had enough. We've had a variety of World Tour winners this year already. Hasn't won a World Tour stage race since 2022 Giro.
Who?
Van der Poel.
Well, he doesn't go to many. He doesn't like doing the
He's won plenty.
He's won
the classics and everything. Well, why can't he get it done during the Grandies?
I think because I think he has.
No, he hasn't. Not since the Giro. In 2022.
Okay, well, I think when he's gone to the Tour, remember that stage he won on the anniversary of his granddad? Remember that stage? I think he took the yellow jersey. That was amazing against Michael Matthews, but it's not his big focus. He wins the races he focuses on. I don't think we could say anything wrong with Van der Poel.
Well, if you think he's not going to be focusing on Milan-San Remo this week...
Oh, he is.
Then he should have the legs to go and win a stage at Tirreno.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's fair to say. Maybe he's came in with a lot of load, and now the deload week is happening now. Ready for that 300k race across the coastline. We've got a interesting topic coming up, Tommy, regarding we want to see the best riders like Van der Poel in every race. But it'll come up right after this. This is Roadside, presented by Zwift. So, Tom, should the top 20 to 30 riders be made to race the same races more frequently? Is it an issue in pro cycling? Because I think it is beginning to be one.
Yeah, it sort of is. It's been something that's sort of growing because, whenever we look at a start list or we approach a race, there's always the talk of who's there, which is a fascinating topic, isn't it? And we see it in other sports, in football, NRL or whatever. Teams get released, say, on a Thursday when you've got a Friday or a Saturday game. Sunday games, they're a little bit different. In cycling, there's just that chat about calendars and structure and what races riders are going to target at the start of the year and if they do come to fruition. It's a fascinating one to be if there was the structure where you could lock in those riders to races earlier.
Yeah, because we're getting when these top riders, like say your big four, in just say Remco, Pogacar, Vingegaard, Roglic, then we of course Van der Poel and Pidcocks, those sorts of riders. When they ruck up to a race on their own without any of the others, they win. And they win by a lot. Like we saw in Strade, like we saw with Van der Poel when he's racing random Les Amens. Like, they just win easily. And people eventually get tired of that. I don't, personally. But you do want to see the best compete with the best. And this is where that conversation has started. I believe this topic was kind of brought up by Escape Cycling Collective. But I reckon it's too long to wait. From October World Championships, we see the best compete against the best, or July Tour de France. We have to wait all the way through to April to see Roubaix, to get to see Pog versus Van der Poel and Mads all together in one. And then we wait all the way through to July until we get to see Vingegaard versus Pogacar versus Remco versus Roglic. I mean, they've got Tirreno on one race and on 1 week, and Paris-Nice is on the same week. And so we're missing the clash of Ayuso versus, let's say, Jorgensen and things like that. So I can see the argument for that. And this is one of the things that the One Cycling Project, it's one of their key themes. That's why the One Cycling Project wants to come in. They want to have a less amount of races, but all of the top stars are there.
Yeah, it's a fascinating prospect. I think there's definitely room to sort of scope it out and explore it. I just find it for starters, it's so stupid. Paris-Nice and Tirreno are on at the same time. It's so dumb. Space the calendar out. I don't know. Start things earlier. Maybe give the boot to Middle East races or something like that, or get them happening earlier.
What about
so there is more breathing room through spring potentially. But I would like to see it comes down also because no race is worth the same. It differs to what riders actually want to do. And the riders do go, hey, I went to the Tour for 2 last years. I want to go race the Giro for the experience. And you're kind of going, hold up. Why are you asking? Where's the difference between one race to another? And for a business model, how are you just letting riders sort of pick and choose what they want on, say, experience or choice of what they want to go win?
Races are banked on maybe a rider turning up. And
yeah, precisely. And we're seeing riders being sent to races this year for UCI points as well, so it adds another layer into it.
What is the solution? We need to know what would be the solution. If anyone thought about this and just thought, what is the way that pro cycling could make this work? I mean, I think one cycling is too extreme, and from all reports, it's kind of at a bit of stalemate right now from where they're progressing as a structure. But what if you just had 10 races per year? Let's say less than that. 5 races for Classics contenders, 5 races for Grand Tour contenders, including the Tour or Giro or Vuelta, where they all have to go. You know, just pick 5 per year. That means you can structure your calendar around that.
Be a lot less riders in pelotons. You're putting a few people out of jobs, unfortunately.
Well, no, just 5. The top 10 riders have to go to the same 5 races.
How do you structure the top 10 riders?
UCI points filtered with Classic and Grand Tours.
Everyone's got to put their FTP public.
Oh, yeah, maybe that. So I don't know, but it would be nice not to wait till April to see Pog versus Van der Poel and Mads, and it would be nice not to wait till July and to see Pog versus Vingegaard versus Remco, because so much happens in between January and bloody July. Like, yeah, they can get injured, they can crash, and the whole thing can be ruined, and we don't even get to see a proper fight, like last year's Tour de France. Pog destroyed Vingegaard, but it wasn't Vingegaard 100%.
He rolled in at sort of 80-odd, you know. So
and Pog was 150. So, let me know what...
It's fascinating. It's a dilemma that's going to plague cycling as long as all the races are individually owned.
And also as long as...
You're not going to get any structure.
That's true. And I think the height and the dominance of Pog and Van der Poel makes this even more so, because the races are just no contest when they are there and the big hitters are not.
People are just nuffies, mate. They need to become more nuffies like us and appreciate, you know, when Martinez gets a win or when Clement Champousson comes out of the depths and starts performing again. So, yeah, they've got to support the fringe riders, mate.
They certainly do. So, Tommy, it's been a big episode. Lots of interesting topics tonight or today when we're recording. The Vingegaard one was one. We've had lots of news. It just seems like we've almost got to do a pod every second day because there's so much news coming out. But I have to say, I'm now, even though we said it opening weekend, the season kicks off with Milano-San Remo, and our preview is this Thursday.
No, season kicked off with opening weekend, mate. Absolutely. No, season kicked off with Tour Down Under in January.
It certainly did.
It did... It was great. No, bring on Milano-San Remo. I'm excited for it. It's always a boring as all hell race for the first couple of 100Ks, but I think that's going to change because Pog will want to make things a little bit more juicy.
We are going to talk about that in our Milano-San Remo preview. Thanks, everyone, for watching and listening. It's great to have you along. Please give us some feedback as well.
And those receipts.
Send us the receipts. Send us the audio recordings, comments on YouTube as well. We love listening and reading those, and we'll see you on Thursday for the Milano-San Remo preview.